this is Christopher G. Moore for Gruesome Magazine, and we're here to talk about Thor Ragnarok. And here to talk about it is Doc Rotten, who just got out of a press screening for it. How you doing, Doc?
Oh, I'm doing good, Christopher. Oh, I'm so excited to be talking about this film. It's not our normal, horror movie. We're back in the superhero realm, but this might be a good one, sir.
Tell us, can you give us sort of a quick synopsis of what this new Thor movie's about?
Well, in this Thor movie, Thor is basically looking to stop Ragnarok, and in the process uncovers that he has a long-lost sister named Hela, the goddess of death, who is freed from her prison and decides that she is going to lay waste, or actually just reclaim her throne of Asgard. And in the process sends Thor and Loki off world, off Asgard, off Earth, out into space from Bifrost, and they land on a planet Sakaar, and where they plot their return. And in the process, they run across some familiar faces that you've seen in the trailers, and some new faces for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all wonderful and joyous.
So, what's your first impression of this third in the Thor movies?
Well, first off, it is by far and easily the best Thor movie. There's no debate. I don't think.
Well, that's not saying a lot. There's a lot of things that are better than the first two Thor movies.
That might be true. I haven't had as much problem with the Thor movies as other people, but there's no denying it with this. It is extraordinarily well done. It has a lot of life to it. It is full of humor, full of color, full of life, and has so much more personality than you have found in previous Thor movies and some other Marvel films. It is by far the funniest Marvel film, even funnier, I would say, than Guardians. But where Guardians may not have been as funny, and it is funny, it had more plot. So the only thing Thor has going against to it is that the actual plot itself is a little thin. But it makes up for it in character and humor and music and color and direction, and everything else you could possibly imagine is just ramped up to 10 and above, and it is such a good time.
So I know that director Taika Waititi, this is his first sort of venture into directing blockbusters. He last did What We Do in the Shadows, the sort of vampire mockumentary type thing. So do you think this new film, it's attributed to his sort of sense of humor?
Yes, his sense of humor embodies this film. It is every turn, every joke feels like it comes from him. He actually voices one of the characters. Every time that character is on screen, it practically steals the movie.
The character's name is Korg.
Yes. It's a rock creature. And if you are familiar with Planet Hulk, you are familiar with that character. And segueing into that real quick, yes, Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk, is in this film, and it plays on the Planet Hulk scenario, which, to be fair, I am insanely biased at this point because the Hulk is my favorite Marvel character, and Planet Hulk is one of my favorite, if not very favorite, Hulk stories. So having this be brought on the screen, and even though it's in this abbreviated and adapted fashion, it was a joy to behold. And I would argue the scenes on Sakaar far outweigh the scenes on Asgard.
I would say, well, I think, and I was actually lucky enough to go to the screening with you as well, and so I would agree with that summation. And I think also we luckily have a Hulk here who can actually, say more than just Hulk smash.
Yes, the Hulk has been the Hulk for 2 years. It's a little plot spoiler there, but it's not crucial spoiler to the story. It's not going to spoil anything as far as enjoyment. But it also brings a Hulk that is far different than we've seen thus far, and really a natural evolution of the character from what we've seen, and it enhances a lot of how he interacts with other characters. It's a joy. It really is. This movie is so, and I can't explain how it's more than just the Hulk. It is the colors, the set decorations, the costuming, everything that they've done here. I mean, we haven't said anything about Hela. Hela's the main villain, played by Cate Blanchette. And while she isn't giving enough to do, given that she's Cate Blanchett, she also happens still to be one of the better Marvel villains. Just, I don't know. I gotta stop. I'm just gonna end up like exploding for this film. It's just great.
Well, I think you can definitely tell that they sort of took the lead from the Guardians films with the color palette. But I will say, just seeing it almost falls into almost like their version of like a Star Wars universe to some degree. You even have, and we haven't even talked about Jeff Goldblum, who plays the Grandmaster.
That's right.
Who is just basically full on Jeff Goldblum at 11, just hamming it up. And there's like actually a scene where he's jamming with like a band that just seems like the band off of Tatooine, but just like more like Daft Punk version. There's just so many that, and I think part of it has to do with, I read somewhere that Taika Waititi, he actually wanted the actors to improvise sometimes in scenes. And I think that's where some of that stuff, like I know the scene where Thor and Korg are talking and they're trying to pick weapons. That whole scene was improvised, where he's talking about like, that your hammer is almost like losing a loved one, type thing. But I mean, I think because they have a real sense of humor about everything. I mean, there's so many like jokes about different things. There's a specific, I won't give anything away, but there's a specific thing that they travel on that has a really funny name that they keep using. There's a lot of adult humor in it that may go over kids' heads, but makes it very funny. There's a whole Hulk joke that's really funny. So I would agree with you that this is definitely one of the funniest Marvel films, and one of the more entertaining ones. It definitely has more humor. I don't think I've laughed that loud at any Marvel film or any film probably in the last year as much as I did at this film.
Yeah, I laughed out loud as well. The traveling place, I think, is the one that we both left out quite a bit, without spoiling it. But we can't end the review without talking about Tessa Thompson, who plays Valkyrie, and she goes a long way to stealing the movie as well. It also has Carl Urban plays Scourge.
And there's a few cameos that we won't mention.
There's a lot of cameos and guest stars.
There's a nice little cameos in a few places that you don't expect, and you could hear people laughing in the theater when certain people showed up, and you're like, what? When it comes to the Marvel films, where would you place this in the cinematic universe?
Well, the interesting thing about this, I think it might end up being my favorite Marvel movie, but it's not the best one. So it's not like in the same respect as like Civil War is, because I think Civil War is a better film, and I think some of the Captain America films as a whole are better films. Guardians of the Galaxy is another film that you might be better as a whole, but this might end up being my favorite. Not because of the story, but because of how much of a great time I had. The first 10 minutes, and it literally the first 10 minutes is really just one person. And then, well, two, I guess, because you have, Clancy Brown as the voice of Satur, but it's basically just this interaction, and it's the opening 10 minutes, and I was already on board with the film, 100%. And it never stopped amusing me, making me laugh, and I was never bored with it at all, ever. So yeah, I think it's a difficult, it's a simple question, but difficult to answer because it's very complicated. So there you go.
Yeah. So what kind of rating would you give this film?
I'm going to give this movie a 4.75. And my favorite scene is going to have to be the Thor Hulk battle in the Contest of Champions. It has so much going on. I mean, if it weren't for the actual Thor and Hulk battle, it would be the reaction of Loki when he realizes it's Hulk.
There's a lot of funny reaction with Loki, and we haven't even talked about Tim Hiddleston. He's definitely doing his normal Loki role, but he's not the only comedic person in this. And I think, if anything, I think Thor really steps up as the comedic presence in this film, much more than he has in other films, to where he's really just having fun with that character. But yeah, I think his reactions to that whole fight in different ways makes for a very entertaining scene. Oh, yeah. I will one up you and say that I give this movie a 5 out of 5. It's one of my top Marvel films, and I'm one of those people. I like the Marvel films that are more entertaining than they are anything else. I think some of the Civil War stuff is a little bit more, to me, a little bit more overrated. And this is definitely the tops for me. I really enjoyed it. Nice.
Well, there you go. Review for Thor Ragnarok. We'll be doing much more about this film on the next episode 240 of Horror News Radio, where Thomas, Dave, and Chad Hunt will chime in with their opinions on this, and we'll see if my love for the Hulk and all things green and angry will hold up against their thoughts. Be curious to find out.
And if anybody who's listening to this, if you get to go see it before we review it on H&R, send us your thoughts. What did you think? Did you like it as much as we did? Did you have any issues with it? I think a lot of people are going to come away from this really enjoying it. I know the theater we saw it in, people clapped at the end of it. And I rarely see that in a lot of films these days. So I think that shows a lot how much entertainment value in this film. I think it's going to do really well this weekend.
I think it will. All right, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Be sure to visit GruesomeMagazine.com to listen to the other Gruesome podcasts, Horror News Radio, and Decades of Horror. Also check out the Gruesome Magazine Quarterly, available in digital and print-on-demand format. Gruesome Magazine.